Truth is, even the strongest hand has to learn what it means to be held. That was the lesson creeping up on Rhea Calder, though she'd sooner chew leather than admit it. Her life had been sweat and saddle soap. Raised on the far edge of Saguaro County, Texas, she'd outlasted winters that snapped horses in two and summers that baked the earth till dust turned knife sharp. She could patch fence in the dark, rope a runaway yearling, even stitch a gelding after barbed wire. But her own aches, those she ignored. Her mother died when Rhea was 10. Barns and bunkhouses raised her after that. She learned to sleep with hay in her hair, to ride colts that didn't know fear, to eat cold beans from a can when work ran past dawn. A cowgirl could handle anything except herself. By spring of 1883, a pain in her side had honed into a blade. She shoved through it every morning, teeth gritted as she swung into the saddle. But one dawn, when the world still smelled of dew and manure, the pain buckled her. For the first time in her life, she turned her mare toward Dry Willow, the nearest town with a physician. She expected an old bone setter with whiskey breath and crooked spectacles. Instead, she stepped into the office of Dr. Malachi Wren, the new doctor in town. Not gray, not stooped. 30, maybe 32, clean-cut, broad-shouldered like a ranch hand, yet polished enough to belong in an Eastern lecture hall. His voice carried a certainty that made a body sit straighter without thinking. Rhea hated how her mouth went dry. When he gestured to the examination chair, she froze like a spooked filly, hand on her hat brim. The pain pulsed harder, mocking her hesitation. "Just lie back and let me take care of you," he said, gentle as creek water. The words snapped like a whip. Heat burned her cheeks. No one had said that to her in 23 years. She staggered upright, boots scraping the boards. "I don't need any of this," she muttered, fumbling the latch. "Your choice," Wren replied, steady as morning coffee, "but pain outlasts pride." Her heart pounded like a runaway team. She yanked open the door and stormed into the street, vowing never to go back. But Dry Willow was small, and fate never cared about vows. Back at the Calder spread, Dawson Pike, her father's partner of 30 years, now 60 and silver-whiskered, watched from the barn door. "You look like you got dragged through a knothole." "Just tired," she said, hanging the saddle. "Tired, hell, you've been favoring that side for weeks. What'd the doc say?" Heat crept up her neck. "Didn't see him. You rode to town and didn't see the doctor?" Dawson shook his head. "Girl, you got less sense than God gave a goose." "It ain't pride," she muttered when he pushed. "Then what is it?" he asked, but she turned away. That night, the doctor's words echoed. "Just let me take care of you." She'd been taught that cowboys didn't coddle. You carried your weight, set your own bones, kept quiet. Tears were for children and city folk. Weakness was a luxury she couldn't afford. But the way Malachi Wren had looked at her, like she was worth protecting, shook her to her boot heels. At dawn, she saddled Cricket, jaw tight, determined to ride the north fence. She made it halfway before the world tilted. Cricket stopped when Rhea swayed. Black spots crawled at the edge of her vision. The pain wrapped her ribs like barbed wire. "Come on, girl," she whispered. "Don't quit now." Her body had other plans. The ground rushed up. She slid from the saddle and blacked out. When she came to, Cricket was nosing her shoulder. Every breath was a stab. Sensible said ride home and send Dawson for the doctor. The Calder way said climb back up and finish. She chose stubbornness, leveraged the stirrup, and hauled herself into the saddle. The fence could wait. There were troughs to fill and strays to push. Pain, she told herself, was just another weather condition. 3 days later, she returned to Dry Willow for supplies. The pain hadn't eased, but it hadn't killed her either. She took that as confirmation that she'd been right to avoid the doctor. As she left Delaney's general store, she spotted Malachi Wren outside the post office reading a letter. Even from 50 yards, she recognized the set of his shoulders and how sunlight threaded dark hair. She ducked behind her mare, hoping to load and vanish. "Good afternoon, Miss Calder," came his voice right behind her. She whirled, nearly dropped a sack of flour. Up close, she could see gold flecks in his eyes. "Doctor," she said, rough. "Feeling better?" Polite concern made her squirm. "Fine as frog's hair." "Glad to hear." He tipped his hat, nodded at her supplies. "Stocking up for winter?" "Just the usual." The motion of lifting the sack sharpened her pain. She bit back a wince. If he noticed, he hid it. My door's open if you change your mind, he said and stepped aside. Heat flooded her face. Did he have to mention it on Main Street? Won't be necessary. I'm sure, he said, smiling like he doubted it. Good day, Miss Calder. He walked away, easy as sunlight. Rhea watched him go, heart fluttering like a trapped bird. She'd handled it about as well as a three-legged dog at a foot race. The ride home gave her time to stew. Why did Malachy Wren make her feel like a schoolgirl caught passing notes? She had faced down bulls and broken broncs without flinching. One polite conversation and she unraveled. It didn't help that he was handsome in a solid, useful way. The kind of man who could gentle a spooked horse and deliver a breech baby. The kind who was out of her league. The next morning, she heard that Rella Moreau, who ran the boarding house, was selling 30 head of prime cattle, priced to move. Rhea couldn't let it go. She'd been rebuilding since her father Eli died. Good stock was scarce. She washed her face, braided her hair, and kept her work clothes on. Business was business. Rella welcomed her into a tidy parlor and poured coffee in delicate china. They struck a fair deal, generous even. Rhea could swing it if she sold a few of Eli's tools and cinched tight through winter. I'll need a day to arrange payment, she said. Of course, Rella said, but I should mention, Dr. Wren stopped by yesterday, asked questions. Rhea's cup rattled. The doctor wants cattle? Perhaps, Rella said, eyes twinkling. Or perhaps he wanted to know who else might be interested. It landed like a kick. Malachy Wren sniffing around what she needed. Maybe for investment, maybe to complicate her life. Either way, he had money. She didn't. She left in a foul mood and pushed through Lenehan's cafe without looking, straight into a solid chest. Whoa there, cowgirl, Wren said, steadying her. Amusement tugged at his mouth. Careful, or folks will think you're chasing me. Chasing you? She squeaked. I wouldn't chase you if you were the last man in Texas. That's what I like about you. No gilding, he said, grinning. He tipped his head toward a corner. Since we're both here, how about a coffee? On me. I don't need you to buy me anything. Of course not, but it's polite, seeing as I almost knocked you flat. Before she could refuse, he had guided her to a table. Liza Parrish poured coffee with eyes bright as gossip. Within minutes, the cafe would be buzzing, the town doctor having coffee with the wild Calder girl. Relax, he said. I don't bite. Don't matter if you do, she muttered, hands wrapped around the cup. I've got business. Moreau cattle. Small town, he said. Rella mentioned you might be interested. She mentioned you might be too. Might be, he said, sipping. Good stock brings a good price. To him, those cattle were numbers. To her, they were survival. Don't let me stop you, she snapped and stood. Sit, he said quietly. She sank back into the chair. He set his cup down with care. Now tell me what's got your feathers ruffled. Nothing, she said, then faltered. It's nothing. I've chased cattle easier than I'm chasing you, he said, not unkindly. I ain't running. No? Then what do you call bolting from my office, ducking behind your mare and trying to flee just now? Each observation burned. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you don't, he leaned in, voice low. I think you're scared. She laughed, thin and brittle. Mister, I've faced down grizzlies and twisters. You don't scare me. No, he said, but something does. What is it, Rhea? What are you running from? Her given name on his lips made her shiver. Nobody used it except Dawson. I ain't running, she said, but conviction wavered. Prove it. Have dinner with me. What? Dinner, tomorrow night, the hotel. I can't. Why me? Because I like you, he said simply. It struck like lightning. She searched his face for the joke, the pity, the angle. He only looked serious. Men like you don't like women like me, she said. What kind of man am I? Rich, educated, respectable, you probably have debutantes in your pocket. And what kind of woman are you? She didn't know how to answer. A ranch hand in a skirt? A woman who'd forgotten how to be feminine? The wrong kind. You know what I see? He said softly. A woman stronger than any 3 men I know. A worker who does more before noon than most do in a week. Integrity from your hat brim to your heels. You don't know me. I know you rode 20 miles with what I suspect is appendicitis because you're too proud to ask for help. I know you run a ranch alone, and well. I know you'd rather argue than bat eyelashes. I don't know how to bat my eyelashes, she blurted. Good, he said, smiling. Nothing about this made sense. Men didn't court women who smelled like horse and wore worn boots. They didn't ask them to dinner in hotels. I should go, she said. The offer stands, he replied. Anytime you're ready to stop running. She fled under Liza's knowing gaze. That night she tossed, full of brown eyes and steady hands. Daylight brought resolve. Men like Wren didn't court women like her without an angle. Maybe he was bored, felt sorry for her, or collected curiosities. Whatever it was, she wouldn't play the fool. She worked the windmill, then the chicken coop, then harness. By noon she was sweating. Dawson found her fighting a stubborn bridle. You'll wear that leather thin, he said. I hear you had coffee with the doc. It wasn't like that. Like what folks are saying? He teased, then sobered. Your pa used to say you were so busy proving you were tough as any man, you forgot you're allowed to be a woman too. Being a woman never got me anything but trouble. Maybe you never gave it a fair chance. Hoofbeats. Rhea looked up and her stomach dropped. Malachi Wren rode into the yard on a chestnut, doctor's bag tied behind his saddle. He slid down, pulled a small bottle from his kit. For the pain. Spoonful twice a day. I told you I don't need help. You were clear. He held out the bottle. Consider it neighborly. Neighbors don't make house calls with fancy medicine. This neighbor does. I can't pay. Did I ask? No, but then take it. Unless you'd prefer to keep suffering because stubborn beats relief. I ain't suffering. No? Then why favor your left? Why wince when you breathe? Why nearly pass out in my office? Her defenses frayed. I'm fine, she gritted. You're not, he said gently. There's no shame in being hurt, only in refusing to heal. Kindness landed harder than scorn. She clutched the bottle. I should get back to work. Of course, dinner offer still stands. No. Why? Because, she said, that's not a reason. It's reason enough. He studied her like a patient. I think you're scared I mean what I say, that you're worth courting. It knocked her off balance. You don't know, don't I? He moved closer, voice low. When's the last time someone told you you were beautiful? That they wanted your company for its own sake? I know what I am, she snapped. From where I stand, he said, looks like you forgot. She turned away before tears betrayed her. I have work. Sometimes the most important work is taking care of ourselves. He mounted and rode off, leaving her quiet as a church. That evening, she turned the bottle in her hands. The pain softened with the dose. The ache in her chest sharpened. Dawson joined her. I heard the doc's got himself a spread north of here. Ranch land, cattle, maybe mining. Wealthy as a railroad. Cold washed through her. How wealthy? Rich enough to buy and sell half the county. Makes you wonder why he's doctoring instead of living high back east. Of course he was rich. The kind of man who could afford to play with local hearts. Why tell me? Because rich men got rich man problems. They sometimes look for simple folks to ease themselves. Question is, what's he want from you? Rhea stood fast. The bottle slipped, shattered, and soaked into old boards. I'm going to bed, she said, leaving Dawson to sweep the glass. For a week, she avoided Wren like she'd once avoided getting thrown. She changed routes, sent Dawson to town, stuck to back roads. It nearly worked. Then she came out of the bank, loan in hand for Moreau's herd, and saw his chestnut tied outside Delaney's. She ducked behind a water barrel. Miss Calder, he said, appearing around it, amused. Checking the water level? Important work, she said, straightening. Looks shipshape, he said, falling into step beside her. Funny thing, I heard from Mrs. Lane you ducked behind her chicken. Silas Barrows swears he saw you crawl under a wagon. Eleanora Rush insists you hid in her privy. Heat crawled up her neck. Had she been that obvious? People see what they want. Maybe so. Makes a man wonder what he did to deserve such creative avoidance. At her horse, she fumbled the reins. I ain't avoiding anyone. No? Then you won't mind dinner tonight. I told you. You told me no. You never told me why. She swung into the saddle. Height helped. I can't. Can't or won't. Does it matter? It does to me, he said, stepping close to Cricket. The mare nuzzled his palm like a traitor. I think you're scared of what people will say. People already got plenty to say, she said. I'm a wild thing in men's clothes who can't catch a husband, and dinner with me makes that worse? It gives folks a fresh story. Poor cowgirl trying to snag the rich doctor must be desperate. Let them, he said flatly. Easy for you, she snapped. You ain't the one they'll laugh at. Who's laughing, he asked, voice edged. Silas Barrow who can't balance a ledger? Alara Dunning whose husband ran off with a preacher's wife? Orrin Grask who can't stay sober? They're still people. Their opinions matter. Not to me, he said, touching her boot. Lightning shot up her leg. Yours does. Everyone else can go to hell. You shouldn't talk like that. Honest? He smiled. I'm a grown man. I can say hell if I want, and I can damn well take who I please to dinner. She gathered her reins. I have to get back. The offer stands, he said, stepping back. Tonight, tomorrow, next week. Whenever you're ready to stop running. I'm patient, Rhea, but I won't wait forever. 3 days later, the pain hit like wildfire. She saddled anyway. The world tilted. She fell near the trough, crawled to the barn, and faded in and out. Cricket wandered toward the lane. Dawson found the loose mare and rode like the devil for Wren. A chestnut slid in the yard. Wren ran. Jesus Christ, Rhea. He lifted her like she weighed nothing. Put me down, she mumbled against his shirt that smelled like soap and leather. Like hell. He mounted with her in his arms and rode. His house was larger than she'd imagined. Glass windows, wraparound porch. He carried her into a velvet-trimmed parlor, dosed her with laudanum, and set his surgeon's kit nearby. I'm getting dirt on your fine furniture, she muttered. I don't give a damn about the furniture, he said, hands gentle and sure as he palpated her side. How long has it been this bad? It's not. Don't lie to me. Not now. Since this morning, she whispered. Maybe yesterday. He paced, hands raking his hair. Goddamn stubborn woman, this could have killed you. I'm fine. You are not fine, he snapped. You collapsed in your yard and lay there who knows how long. If Dawson hadn't found me. Dawson. He saw Cricket and came. Said he'd never seen that mare without you. Humiliation washed over her. I can take care of myself. Can you? From where I stand, you're doing a piss-poor job. His face was flush with anger and fear. You want to know why I won't leave you alone? It's not charity or pity. It's because I can't stand the thought of you killing yourself with pride. I wasn't. You were dying, he said, voice dropping into a steady, terrible calm. That's what appendicitis does. The word hung heavy. Dying. I've seen it, he continued. Back east, a woman your age, too ashamed to seek help till it was too late. I watched her die, nothing I could do. His pain tightened her chest. You think I want something from you? He asked. I want you alive, that's all. She'd spent so long bracing against being seen as weak that she'd forgotten what it felt like to be seen as precious. I don't know how, she whispered. How to what? How to let someone take care of me. Ma died early. Pa did his best, but the ranch was his life. I learned to patch myself and keep going. You don't have to know how, he said, moving to the sofa's edge and taking her hand. Just don't fight me. She stared at their joined hands, his smooth, hers scarred. They shouldn't fit. They did. People will talk, she said. Let 'em. Their opinions don't matter to me. Why? Slipped out. Why me? He smiled, crooked as a boy. You really don't know? You're the first woman I've met who isn't impressed by my money. I never said I wasn't. You ran from it, he said, lifting their hands to kiss her knuckles. Most women see dollar signs. You see a man who can't hammer a nail straight. You really can't, she said, almost smiling. Worst carpenter in Texas, he agreed. But I can set a bone and deliver a baby. We all have talents. Yours include running a ranch, better than most men. You're stronger than anyone I know, and twice as brave. I don't feel brave. You've been doing brave for so long you don't notice it, he said. It's just life, she murmured. It's extraordinary life. She eyed him. What brought you west, besides your mother passing? His face shuddered. Fresh start, he said, but then, I was engaged, Celine Margrave. Her father owned half the city. At a party, someone asked what it was like, marrying a doctor. She said, Malachi's sweet enough, but under all that education he's a ranch hand in a fancy suit. I'll have to train the cowboy out of him. They laughed. I ended the engagement that night. She was a fool, Rhea said. Any woman who'd mock a man she claims to love ain't worth the powder to blow her to hell. He stared, then cupped her face and kissed her, gentle at first, then sure. She'd never been kissed like that, with tenderness that made her feel cherished. When he drew back, both were breathless. Long overdue, he said to her unfinished words. People will talk, she said. Let them. I'm done caring. Are you? She looked into warm brown eyes and felt something open in her chest. She'd been afraid of being seen as weak all her life. In his gaze, she saw herself strong and worthy of love. I'm scared, she whispered. Of me? Of this? Of caring too much and watching it break? Nothing worth having is risk-free, he said. Some gambles are worth it. What happens now? Now you finish your coffee and let me make breakfast. Then we take it a day at a time. He grinned. Unless you'd rather I court you proper. Flowers, candy, Sunday drives. I ain't much for flowers. Good, I'm terrible at picking them. I do bake a mean apple pie, mother's recipe. She smiled, truly smiling for the first time in a long time. I'd like to try your pie, Malachi Wren. Then it's a date, Rhea called her. 6 months later, in a borrowed white dress at Rella Moreau's, Rhea faced her reflection. Her hair was twisted into something like a style. Her boots were still her boots. You look beautiful, Rella said, settling the simple veil. Nervous? Terrified, Rhea confessed. Dawson poked his head in, eyes unusually soft. Time to go, girl. That doctor of yours is wearing grooves in the church floor. The ceremony was small, their vows steady. The kiss was met with cheers. The reception at Lenahan's was lively. During a dance, Malachi whispered, Do I still scare you? Only if you plan to keep me awake till rooster crow, she teased. Promise, he murmured. Marriage began as a comedy of errors. Malachi moved into the Calder house, insisting it felt more like home than his grand place. She found him milking a cow from the wrong side. Other side, Doc, she called, laughing. His first roping ended with him face down, the loop around his own ankles. How'd you rope yourself? She gasped, giggling. I have no idea, he sputtered. She taught him fences and weather and herd. He taught her coffee, books, and rest. Their first real fight came when she tried to work through a fever. He carried her to bed. You married a doctor. That means you follow medical orders. I married a man who can't rope a calf. True, he grinned, but I can carry a stubborn wife. 2 years in, their son Eli arrived. Malachi paced midnight floors, the baby on his chest while Rhea snatched sleep. Dawson was a doting foreman grandfather and an incorrigible meddler who once let the wind move their bedrolls together. Mrs. Wren, Rhea whispered into the night by a campfire, the name still a thrill. Still can't believe you married me. Still can't believe you said yes, he replied, arm pulling her close. Best decision I ever made, coming west, even with disasters and backward boards, especially because of them. Their third year brought twin girls, Mara and Celine, named for the night, and a hymn book. The house filled with chaos and laughter. The ranch prospered. Their greatest triumphs were small: morning coffees, evening stories, quiet work done together. 10 years later, Rhea stood on the porch, watching Malachi teach Eli to rope. Got it, the boy whooped. Again, Malachi said. Once isn't enough. Dawson joined her. Takes patience to teach a boy, and more to learn it grown. They watched as the sun painted everything gold, the twins building dirt castles nearby. You ever regret giving up the single life? Dawson asked. Never, Rhea said. Best thing I ever did was let that man take care of me. Even when he burns biscuits? Even then, though I do most of the cooking. As if summoned, Malachi looked up and smiled, that same warm, mischievous smile that had undone her years ago. He said something to Eli and jogged over, moving with that easy grace that still made her heart catch. What are you two plotting? He asked, arm sliding around her waist. Just admiring your teaching, she said. Though I notice you ain't demonstrating. I've learned my limits. Teaching's safer than performing. Coward. Practical, he said, eyes glinting. Besides, I've better ways to spend an afternoon than eating dirt. Such as? Keeping my wife awake till rooster crow, he whispered. Malachi Wren, she scolded, glancing at the twins. The children. The children are busy, Dawson called, already shepherding them. We'll watch 'em an hour or two. It's daylight, she protested, but she was already leaning into him. Plenty of time before roosters start their nonsense. He lifted her. Dawson, mind the children. Always, the old cowboy said. Take your time. We got important castles to inspect. As Malachi carried her toward the house, Rhea caught their reflection in the window. A rancher and his wife, older now, still wrapped around each other, still choosing each other day after day. Still think I'm scary, cowgirl? He asked at the bedroom door. She cupped his face, studying the silver at his temples, the laugh lines, the same handsome doctor who'd made her heart race in a small-town cafe. Terrifying, she whispered against his lips. In all the best ways. Their laughter mingled as the door clicked shut. Outside, Eli whooped another success. The twins chattered over dirt kingdoms. Dawson's voice drifted over the breeze, telling tales of old drives and wilder skies. It was a life built on dust and sweat, brightened by humor, bound by a love that chose to stay through every storm. Not perfect, theirs. A frontier romance grown into something sturdier than either had dared dream. And if sometimes the roosters had to wait a little longer for dawn, well, that was between a cowgirl, her doctor, and the wide Texas sky that had watched their unlikely beginning and blessed their enduring love.